Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fireside with Spirit. I'm Coleman, your intuitive medium and clairvoyant and Reiki and energy work practitioner. So, I'm really excited for our reading this week because we're working with a brand new deck of cards that I just got in the last week. Actually, this deck of cards just came out October 31st, so it is brand new. Angels and Auras Oracle by authors Radley Valentine and Dougal Fraser. There's our authors right there. For those of you that really like this, you may want to do a little search on YouTube by both of their names because they're doing a whole bunch of podcasts all about this deck of cards and how to interpret these cards. I've been really enjoying that. Um, let's see, we are a little late this week, but these cards are still going to carry through this week. And just know that some of these readings, the time frames overlap a little bit. So you may see some of this coming up later in November, on into the early part of the year. It's still absolutely worthwhile to catch these videos every week because there's going to be something new. The messages tend to layer, but just know that these messages, for this read in particular, we're going to see this applying absolutely to the week that we're in and to really through the end of this year, through 2023. So our cards for this week are going to carry us technically from, let's see, today is the 7th. So November 8th up through November, oh God, Monday is going to be 13th? No, 12th. 8th through 12th. So it feels really short. Again, Angels and Auras Oracle cards. I'm going to mention the colors on these because these carry a message and a color. So let's check out card number one. Card number one. Tap into your intuition and see where you're drawn. Card number one. Card number two. Card number two. And card number three. Card number three. Before we get on to the interpretation of the cards, I encourage you to check out my website, heatherlcoleman.com, if you're curious about what I do. If you haven't seen my YouTube channel, it is 5 Elements with Heather. Find me on there, subscribe to my channel. And just know that these messages are going to have some application for you, whether you are catching this live on Facebook, replay on Facebook, or replay on YouTube. So without any further ado, let's get into card number one. Card number one. The title of this card is Soul Groups. Soul Groups. We've got all 7 of our main chakra colors represented here. And the message that carries is that the people that you're closely connected to in your life all represent something significant on your journey. So much like how, we hear so much about the 7 main chakras and how they each of those 7 chakras has a special significance to one aspect of life that we think about a lot, so do each of the members of our soul groups. And as far as, you might be asking yourself, who is in my soul group? The people that are close in your life are generally part of that group. For example, I'll use myself. I'm a single parent. In our case, my kid's dad is completely out of our lives, so he is not in our soul group. However, for other single parents, even if you're divorced, even if you are divorced, however, if your child's other parent is still a significant part of their lives, that person is in your soul group. But using myself as an example, my 2 children and my mother are all in my soul group because we spend the greatest years of our lives connected, close connection. So when we look at soul groups, we're looking at those people that we're not really looking at the people that are in our lives just for a few months or even maybe just a year or two. We're looking at the significant players, your children, your parents, siblings that you're very close to. So I'm not talking about family members that you only see rarely or you were only close for a very short time. We're talking about the people that are really with you on your journey. So when we look at this concept of soul groups, we also have angel wings connecting each of those links. So just know that even the difficult connections, card number one people, or anyone if this speaks to you, even the most difficult relationships may have a deeper and greater meaning than we realize in the moment. And just know that you're being guided and supported through those difficulties. At times, the most difficult relationships are the ones that ultimately are opportunities for us to learn the most from. Other people do serve as a mirror to help us see ourselves more clearly. At times, that means seeing what we want to be more like, or maybe seeing what we don't want to be or what we don't want around us. So that's our message with card number one, is to really think about who is in your soul group and what are you learning from these people. And that does include children for parents. I mean, obviously kids learn a lot from their parents, but parents learn a lot from their children. So card number one, who is in your soul group and what are you learning from them? What are they learning from you? Interesting read this week. This week seems to be the the read of questions. And this is going to keep happening with the other two cards, that we're going to be challenged to ask ourselves these questions. So let's move on to card number two. Interesting card, and I just saw a video, which was just last night. This one and the next card actually, with the authors, where they did talk about the meaning of this. I think this is a very interesting card. The title is Don't Compromise. And to me, the image that stands out the most is this big heart that is depicted red with these bands of colors around it. And when I look at this, I just see this glowing heart. So the message that I'm really picking up on card number two, people, is compromise, yes, is an essential part of the human experience and dealing with other people, dealing with situations at work and at home. But the question or questions, card number two, people, to ask yourselves this week, ask yourself, are there situations or relationships that are causing my heart to shrink when I agree to compromise? Compromise is great, even if it means you're delaying some gratification or getting a little bit less of what you want. But let's say two parties or three parties come up with an agreement where everyone's getting some of what they want. Well, great. The parts are still lesser than the whole, or we could say that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. However, that is not the case when it causes our heart to shrink. So, card number two, people, some questions to ask yourself this week through the end of 2023, or whenever you're hearing this for that matter. The questions to ask yourself, when I am coming up with compromise or being flexible, does that feel pretty good overall? In other words, does my heart feel full, or does my heart feel like it's shrinking? Am I eating my feelings? Am I swallowing my feelings for these compromises that I might be making? Maybe some compromises do feel really good. We really don't mind compromising a bit because we're making someone happy and they will do the same thing for us, right? So our heart feels full. But great if so. But are there situations where that's not happening? It's not a two-way street, or at least not all the time, right? Finally, I really love the wings in this imagery because those wings remind us that we can always fly away from something that's no longer serving us. Let's talk about the colors on this card. It looks like we've got gold and red, which are actually two of my personal favorite colors. Red represents emotions and passion, and fire and drive. So a relationship or a compromise you make that causes you to squelch your fire and sort of dampen or diminish yourself has to go bye-bye. Flap those wings. When we look at that gold color, gold, among other things, is the color of abundance. So sometimes we have to compromise at work, especially if it means we can be making a better living, right? but really ask yourself if significant amounts of money are worth what could be happening to your heart. Okay? There are other ways. There are other ways to make good money where your heart can feel full. Okay? All right, let's set that card aside and just for a moment, because we didn't talk about the colors on the Soul Groups card, one thing I'm noticing, and I don't know how well this comes up on camera, but these little diamond-shaped numbers on each of the cards show the two colors associated with the message. What's fascinating to me is that this has all the colors in it, and we see red and green. We mentioned red just a moment ago is the color of emotions. Green is sometimes the color of money or the heart chakra. So just something to think about when it comes to this soul group message, emotions and the heart chakra. Finally, let's move on to card number 3. I personally love the imagery on this card. In fact, I love anything that has a lot of green on it. We've got number 23 here, evolution. It looks like we've got white and green as the colors. But to me, this just looks like a lot of different hues of green, like lime green, forest green, avocado green, emerald green. But when we look at green, we're talking about matters of the heart. And we've got this title to the card of evolution. And card number 3, people, I want to draw your attention to the imagery where you've got this woman who is wearing a crown. So that tells us she's some sort of a leader, someone who was revered, respected, and honored and loved. And she feels very safe as she's just taking a deep breath, closing her eyes, and allowing the changes and the opportunities to wash around her. So that is our message. Card number 3, people. The changes that you're going through, as topsy-turvy as they might be, as scary as they may be, and feel, you are protected. In fact, that's one of the words on here is protected. And just know that the changes in your life are happening for you, even when it may not seem so. I've heard this expression in the past that rejection is God's form of protection. All of the things that seem to go wrong are just steps on the way to things going more right than you can ever imagine. Trust in the process, trust in your divine plan, card number 3, people. And make time for yourself, make time to meditate, get enough rest. Focus on your self-care as these pretty big changes are happening in your life. And just remember that the changes are happening for you. So just a quick recap. We've got actually card number 37, soul groups. Card number 1, encouraging you to ask yourself, who is in my soul group and what are we learning from each other? Card number 2, don't compromise. Ask yourself whether relationships and situations and therefore compromises that you make cause your heart to feel full and happy or to shrink, because that's an indication of whether you need to make a change in that relationship or situation or both. And finally, card number 3, a reminder that the changes happening in your life are happening for you. And just ask yourself, how can you surrender more? How can you trust your angels, deceased loved ones, and spirit guides, and your form of God, if you believe in God, more? How can you have more faith in yourself? Ask yourself, how can I find more faith in myself, my journey, and my heart? So I hope these messages for this week are helpful for you. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the bell for notifications. I put out new videos every week. And until then, I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful week and that you're enjoying these weeks of November here before Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for you. Much peace, much love, and namaste.